Join ForumIAS Academy, trusted by hundreds of toppers, including IAS Rank 1 𝐂𝐡𝐚𝐧𝐧𝐞𝐥 Sharma.
Good evening, aspirants. Welcome to the Hindu News Analysis discussion brought to you by ForumIAS for the date 7th July 2023. These are the list of news articles for today's discussion. We will be covering 5 topics from governance, international relations, polity, and a topic from economics. Alongside this, we will also be covering 2 previous year prelims questions at the end of the discussion. With this, straight away, let us move to our first article. First article, Understanding Dark Patterns. The news is that the Department of Consumer Affairs and the Advertising Standards Council of India recently held a joint consultation with stakeholders on the menace of dark patterns. Here, the Advertising Standards Council of India has come up with the guidelines for addressing the issue of dark patterns, while the central government is also working towards norms against the dark patterns. From this context, let us know about dark patterns comprehensively. The topic discusses the concept of dark patterns and the Indian government's initiative to curb their use on e-commerce platforms. See, dark patterns, also known as deceptive patterns or tricks implemented by websites or apps to manipulate users into doing things they didn't intend to do. Adding to that, dark patterns also discourage users from behaving in the way that is not beneficial for companies. Know that the term was first coined by Harry Brignall, who is a London-based user experience designer in the year 2010. For example, Instagram simplifies signing up and logging in, but makes deleting or deactivating one's account a more complicated procedure in order to discourage users from doing so. The Indian government has asked the e-commerce companies to stop using such dark patterns on their platforms. Adding to that, the Ministry of Consumer Affairs, Food and Public Distribution has also set up a 17-member task force to prepare guidelines to protect consumers. Let us now see the different types of dark patterns. First is the false urgency. This tactic creates a sense of urgency or scarcity to pressure consumers into making a purchase or taking actions. Next is the basket sneaking. See, websites or apps use dark patterns to add additional products or services to the shopping cart without users' consent. That is what we call it as basket sneaking. The third type is the subscription traps. This tactic makes it easy for consumers to sign up for a service, but it will be difficult for them to cancel it, often by hiding the cancellation option or requiring multiple steps to cancel the subscription. That is what we call subscription traps. Then the another type is forced actions. This involves forcing consumers into taking an action they may not want to take, such as signing up for a service in order to access content. Then another type is the bait and switch. This involves advertising one product or service but delivering another often low quality service. Next one is the hidden cost. This tactic involves hiding additional cost from consumers until they are already committed to making a purchase. So this is one type of dark pattern. Then the last type is the disguised ads. Disguised ads are advertisements that are designed to look like other types of content, such as new articles or user-generated content. But what was the need of guidelines against dark patterns now? See, numerous websites and apps trick their users into allowing them to track their location or gather their data. For example, as per Vox report, Instagram uses terms like activity and personalized instead of tracking and targeting. So they use activity instead of tracking, and they used personalized instead of targeting. So the user does not realize that what they are actually giving the app permission to do so. So it can lead to consumers making decisions that they may not have made otherwise. And this can result in consumers spending more money, sharing more personal information, or having difficulty in opting out of service. This is why the government has now moved to curb the use of dark patterns with the aim of protecting consumers from such manipulative practices. There are certain measures that Government of India is taking against dark patterns. Firstly, engaging in such deceptive and manipulative conduct by using dark patterns in online platform constitutes unfair trade practice under the Consumer Protection Act of 2019. Secondly, consumers can report instances of dark patterns or provide feedback and report such manipulative online practices on National Consumer Helpline. And Union Government has started classifying complaints received on the National Consumer Helpline, that is the number 1915, to compile information on dark patterns. Thirdly, as said earlier, the center has also constituted a 17-member task force to prepare guidelines on protecting consumers against dark patterns. Now let us see the actions that have been taken in other countries against dark patterns. The United States and United Kingdom have enacted laws to restrict the use of dark patterns. In the year 2021, California introduced amendments to the California Consumer Privacy Act, which aimed to prohibit the use of dark patterns. But before that itself, UK released guidelines in April 2019, which were later made legally binding under the Data Protection Act of 2018. These guidelines prohibited companies from employing nudges to influence underage users into selecting low privacy settings. Now, coming back to the article, it specifies way of addressing these dark patterns. Let us see one by one. See, major Indian online marketplace have received a letter from the Department of Consumer Affairs warning them against engaging in unfair trade practices. They were told that implementing dark patterns in their user interface to influence consumer choice and infringe on consumer rights is an offense under Act Consumer Protection Act of 2019. But however, with the growing use of platforms, a robust legal mechanism is a demand now. So the article says Indian government should amend existing laws to specifically address dark patterns. To do this, new rules aimed against deceptive design practices may need to be introduced along with the updated consumer protection laws and data protection legislation. That is all about the article. So from this article, we saw about dark patterns in a comprehensive manner. We also dealt with the types of dark patterns, measures taken by India and by the rest of the developed countries in the world. Then we also saw certain suggestions provided in the article. With this, let us close this article and move to the second topic. Second topic, what are the provisions of the High Seas Treaty? See, on June 19th, the United Nations adopted the Marine Biodiversity of Areas Beyond National Jurisdiction, or in short known as High Seas Treaty. So in this topic, we will be discussing about that only. See, the UN High Seas Treaty was agreed upon after more than 10 years of negotiations during the Intergovernmental Conference on Marine Biodiversity. That is also called as BBNJ, which means Biodiversity of Areas Beyond National Jurisdiction, which got held in New York. See, the High Seas Treaty is a new global treaty for the conservation and sustainable use of biological resources on the high seas. First of all, know that the high seas are open ocean areas that are outside the jurisdiction of any country. That is why the treaty is also known as Agreement on Biodiversity Beyond National Jurisdiction. See, the treaty has four main objectives. First is demarcation of marine protected areas, then sustainable use of marine genetic resources and equitable sharing of benefits arising out of this use of marine genetic resource. Then initiation of the practice of environmental impact assessments for all major activities in the ocean region. Then fourthly, capacity building and technology transfer is one of the objectives of this treaty. Know that the High Seas Treaty will work as an implementation agreement under the UN clause, much like the Paris Agreement works under UNFCCC. What are the significant provisions of this treaty? See, first is the regulation of human activities. The treaty seeks to regulate all human activities in the high seas, that is in the ocean region. This is to ensure that ocean resources, including biodiversity, are utilized in a sustainable manner and their benefits are shared equitably among countries. Then second factor is the protection of biodiversity. The treaty seeks to protect the biodiversity of high seas, which is home to about 2.2 million marine species and up to trillion different kinds of microorganisms. So the creation of marine protected areas will ensure that ocean systems, including biodiversity, are not under stress either due to human activities or climate change. Then the third provision is achieving global targets. The UN High Seas Treaty is very important for reaching the goals and targets of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, and even for achieving the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. UN High Seas Treaty will pave the way. This treaty will make it possible to carry out the major decisions made at the 15th Conference of Parties to the Biodiversity Conventions in 2022. Know that at that meeting only it was decided that marine protected zones should cover 30% of ocean space on Earth by 2030. The fourth significant provision is the sustainable use of marine genetic resources. Ocean hosts diverse life forms, many of which can be useful for human beings in areas like drug development, pharmaceutical. So this treaty seeks to ensure that any benefits arising out of the use of marine genetic resources are equitably shared among all countries. Then next factor is the environment impact assessment. See, high seas treaty require commercial or other activities in the ocean to undergo environmental impact assessment, and the result of this exercise have to be shared with the international community. By this way, the treaty tries to reduce the stress on ocean ecosystem. Next is the capacity building and technology transfer. The treaty lays emphasis on capacity building and technology transfer, especially for small island states and landlocked nations, to meaningfully participate in the conservation efforts and to take benefit from the useful exploitation of marine resources. Next is the Access and Benefit Sharing Committee. See, this committee will be formed to frame guidelines for developing countries in order to get access to benefits from the commercialization of resources extracted from the ocean. Next is the rights of indigenous people and local communities. Know that marine resources in India, in areas beyond national jurisdiction, can only be accessed with their free, prior and informed consent or approval and involvement. So these are certain significant provisions which could be achieved using the High Seas Treaty. Now let us see the challenges in implementing the High Seas Treaty. First is the fishing and industrial expansion. The treaty does not adequately address threats to ocean biodiversity posed by fishing and deep sea mining. The second challenge is the social inclusivity. The treaty focuses on fair and equitable sharing of genetic resources but does not address the sharing of other resources. See, there is no identified international enforcement agency to monitor and enforce the treaty's regulation, and even no financial commitment has been negotiated. So enforcing this treaty is a challenge here. Then the treaty is the result of 20 years of negotiations, and the details of major provisions including environmental impact assessment and mobilization of conservation funds are still yet to be worked out. So negotiation is one of the challenge. Then the next challenge is unaddressed issues. See, the mechanism for policing protected areas and dispute resolution remains unaddressed. Then the process of ratifying the treaty is expected to be difficult and time consuming, as seen with UN clause and Kyoto Protocol. Then if we take the conflicting interest among coastal states and other actors can impede the effective implementation of treaty's provision. Then it is said that many developed countries oppose the treaty as they support private entities which undertake advanced research and development in marine technology. In fact, even Russia and China also are not in favor of the treaty. Russia withdrew from the last stage of reaching a consensus, arguing that the treaty does not balance conservation and sustainability. As a way forward, we can say, to protect ocean life and ourselves, everyone across all sectors must work together to implement and monitor the effectiveness of this new High Seas Treaty. Here, the developed countries will be required to give yearly contributions and voluntary funds created to assist developing countries in implementing the treaty. And know that although the agreement is a positive step forward, multiple states and existing organizations need to take additional actions to ensure its success. So that is all about the article. Third topic, hope India implements IWT in good faith, says Pakistan. See, recently India said that it cannot be compelled to participate in illegal proceedings at the Permanent Court of Arbitration over the 𝐒𝐻𝐿 and Rattle hydropower projects in Kashmir. As a response to that, Pakistan says it believes India would implement the Indus Water Treaty in good faith. So, in this context, let us know about the Indus Water Treaty. See, the 6 rivers of Indus Basin originate in Himalayas or Tibet region. So, these rivers are Indus, Satluj, Beas, Ravi, Jhelum and Chenab. These rivers flow across the Himalayan ranges to end in the Arabian Sea. Preceding the partition of India and Pakistan, it was one common network for both India and Pakistan. However, the partition of India raised questions about the distribution of water between two nations. Since the rivers flowed from India, Pakistan felt threatened by the prospect of control of river water by India. Initially, the issue of water sharing was sorted out by Inter-Dominion Accord in the year 1948. That laid out India would release enough water to Pakistan in return for annual payments. The problem of this arrangement were soon realized and it was considered necessary to find an alternative solution. Eventually, in the year 1960, two countries reached a decisive step with the intervention of the World Bank, wherein precise details were laid out regarding the way how water would be distributed. Now, that led to creation of what we call Indus Water Treaty. So, now let us see the main provisions of Indus Water Treaty. The treaty gives India control of 3 eastern rivers. They are Beas, Ravi and Satluj with a mean annual flow of 33 million acre feet. Then Pakistan gets control of 3 western rivers. They are Chenab, Indus and Jhelum with a mean annual flow of 80 million acre feet. To be precise, the treaty gives India 20% of the water from Indus river system and the rest of 80% is given to Pakistan. Adding to that, the treaty allows India to utilize the water of western rivers for limited irrigation use and non-consumptive use such as applications over power generation, navigations, etc. Thus, India can generate hydroelectricity through a run-off river project on the western rivers, but it is subjected to specific criteria for design and operation. Further, Pakistan also has the right to raise concerns on the design of Indian hydroelectric projects on western rivers. And moreover, the treaty allowed India to have a minimum storage level on the western rivers, meaning it can store up to 3.75 million acre feet of water for conservation and flood storage purposes. Then adding to that, a permanent Indus Commission was set up by UN for resolving any disputes that may arise in water sharing. The functions of the commission include serving as a forum for exchange of information on rivers, for continued cooperation and a first stop for resolution of conflicts. Now let us see how conflicts get resolved under the Indus Water Treaty. See, first of all, IWT provides a 3-step dispute resolution mechanism under which questions on both sides can be resolved at the permanent commission first or can also be taken up at the intergovernment level. In case of unresolved questions between the countries on water sharing, either side can approach the World Bank to appoint a neutral expert to come to a decision. And eventually, if either party is not satisfied with this neutral expert, then matter can be referred to a court of arbitration. So, Pakistan has raised disputes on almost all of India's project on the western rivers. These includes Baglihar Dam on Chenab, 𝐒𝐻𝐿 Dam on 𝐒𝐻𝐿 River, Tulbul project on Jhelum River, etc. Now from mains angle, let us see what should be the approach of India to go ahead. First, India should take steps to completely utilize its entitlements of water of western rivers. The infrastructure to utilize the water has remained underdeveloped in Jammu Kashmir region, so that should also be addressed soon. Secondly, some experts suggest that in case of any hostile behavior by Pakistan in future, India can suspend the meeting of permanent commission. Thereby, if the first state of dispute redressal is not functional, the subsequent two steps of this three-tier dispute redressal could not be undertaken. Thus, India can use this as a pressure tactic on Pakistan. Thirdly, India should explore the possibility of using climate change as a change in circumstances to initiate renegotiations on IWT. This will also put pressure on Pakistan. Fourthly, experts in India and Pakistan should assess how much of the water in eastern and western rivers are snow or rain fed within their respective territories. Such estimates would add to the accuracy of each side's dependence on the other in sharing the water of these rivers. Fifthly, as per the Standing Committee of Water Resources, the canal systems in Punjab and Rajasthan should be repaired to increase their water carrying capacity. So these are the 5 points which could be used in mains writing while dealing or to be a way forward in addressing the Indus Water Treaty issue. So that is all about the article. So from this news discussion, we saw about Indus Water Treaty, the provisions under it, and the dispute resolutions mechanism and suggestions to deal with this problem. So with this, let us close this article and move to the next article. Fourth topic, Supreme Court agrees to hear Delhi government challenge to ordinance on July 10th. See, the central government previously issued a notification taking control over services in the National Capital Territory. So this sparked a long legal battle between the Delhi government and central government. But in the month of May 2023, after the Delhi government approached the Supreme Court, the court ruled decisively in favor of Delhi government. That is, the Supreme Court ordered that the control over services with respect to postings, transfers and promotions will be with the Delhi government. Within days, the central government issued an ordinance amending the Government of National Capital Territory of Delhi Act 1991, giving the power to central government. That is, the central government will take over the control over services. Through this ordinance, the central government wants to undo the court's judgment. Hence, as of now, the ordinance passed by the Union Executive deprived the Delhi Legislative Assembly from enacting laws pertaining to services within the National Capital Territory of Delhi. Now, let us see what are the issues related to central government's ordinance. Firstly, the ordinance violates and undermines the core principles of democracy, representative governance, and responsive administration. See, any functioning modern polity requires the performance of vast range of daily administrative functions. Secondly, this ordinance violates the triple chain of accountability. In its judgment in May 2023, the Supreme Court explicitly recognized this by formulating the concept of triple chain of accountability. See, the triple chain of accountability is integral to representative democracy. That is, civil servants are accountable to cabinet, cabinet is accountable to legislative assembly, legislative assembly is accountable to electorate. This is what is known as triple chain of accountability. Any action that impacts this triple chain of accountability is said to undermine the core constitutional principles of representative government. Hence, it is said that the Delhi Services Ordinance impacts this triple chain of accountability by taking away the services from the jurisdiction of Delhi government. Third is the impact on degree of flexibility. See, Delhi's special status is already recognized in Article 239 AA. This Article 239 AA already creates the balance between interest of representative governance and national interest in the national capital. The Article 239 AA also grants power to Parliament to pass laws with respect to Delhi under any of the fields that are otherwise reserved to the states. The purpose of this is to maintain a degree of flexibility, and unforeseeable circumstances might require Parliament to pass specific legislation. That is why the degree of flexibility is envisaged in the Article 239A of Constitution itself. The Delhi Service Ordinance does not respond to any of the specific circumstance. It takes away the Delhi government's power over services in all circumstances. Also, the ordinance articulates no specific or concrete reason for its enactment. It only mentions the need to balance interest. So this is illogical as balancing has already been achieved in the constitution. So these are the issues which are related to the ordinance passed by the Union Executive. So that is all about the article here. So in this article we saw about the issue and also about the ordinance passed by the Union Executive relating to the control over services in NCT Delhi. So with this, let us close this news article and move to the next topic. Fifth and the final topic, NCR NPA dealt in transparent manner. Recently, our Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman urged public sector banks to ensure fair and transparent recognition of non-performing assets. So in this context, let us know about NPA from prelims angle. See, non-performing assets is a loan or advance for which the principal or interest payment has remained overdue for a period of 90 days. That is, if the banks doesn't get the principal back within the 90 days of the said date, or if the interest payment has not been paid for more than 90 days, then such a loan falls under NPA category. Banks are required to classify NPAs further into three types. They are substandard NPAs, doubtful assets, loss assets. If we take the substandard assets which has remained NPA for a period less than or equal to 12 months constitute substandard assets. Then an asset would be classified as doubtful if it has remained in the substandard category for a period of 12 months. Then according to RBI, loss asset is considered uncollectible and of such little value that its continuance as bankable asset is not warranted, although there may be some recovery value. So if the asset remains doubtful even beyond 12 months, then it could be taken as loss assets. Now let us see the current status of NPA in India. See, according to RBI's financial stability report, the gross non-performing assets ratio has declined to 5% by the September month of 2022. Know that the ratio of net non-performing assets to net advance ratio has fallen to 1.3% in the month of September 2022, which is the lowest in 10 years. But previously, NPAs had risen from 3.8% in 2014 to 11.4% in 2018. However, since then, the NPAs have shown a declining trend. The decline has been achieved on the back of decrease in slippages, increase in write-offs, and pickup in credit growth. In the month of December 2022, the government told the Rajya Sabha that loans written off by the scheduled commercial banks during last 5 financial years totaled around 10 lakh crores. Out of this, 1.32 lakh crore has been recovered. As a percentage of write-offs, this comes to be around 13%. Despite the fall in NPAs, recently the proportion is still high compared to other countries. So that is all about NPAs from prelims angle. So from prelims perspective, you have to know what is NPA, then the classifications of NPA and the facts related to current NPAs. So that is all about the article here. Now let us close this news article discussion and move to the previous year prelims questions. First question, Wellesley established the Fort William College at Calcutta because the options given are option A, he was asked by the board of directors at London to do so. Option B, he wanted to revive interest in Oriental learning in India. Option C, he wanted to provide William Carey and his associates with employment. Option D, he wanted to train British civilians for administrative purpose in India. See, Fort William College was established on the year 1800 by Richard Wellesley, who was the Governor General of Bengal at that time. It was named after King William III of England. The purpose were to encourage Indian languages and making the British officials to be familiar with the local languages so that their administrative work would become easier as it involved interaction with the Indian natives. So the correct answer for this question is option D. Wellesley established the Fort William College because he wanted to train British civilians for administrative purpose in India. Now coming to the second question, this question was asked in the year 2019 prelims. With reference to history of India, 𝐒𝐿𝐵𝐿𝐴N or the Great Tumult is the description of which of the following events? The options given are option A, the revolt of 1857, option B, the Mappila rebellion of 1921, option C, the Indigo revolt of 1859 to 60, option D, Birsa Munda revolt of 1899 to 1900. See, this is a fact-based question. The answer for this question is option D, Birsa Munda revolt of 1899 to 1900. The Munda rebellion is one of the prominent 19th century tribal rebellion in subcontinent. Birsa Munda led this movement in the region south of Ranchi in 1899. The 𝐒𝐿𝐵𝐿𝐴N, meaning Great Tumult, sought to establish Munda Raj and independence for the tribal community. So the answer for this question is option D. Now coming to the mains practice question. How do a governor's constitutional power to assent to a state bills affect the constitutional order? What steps are required to rectify the issues in the process? Aspirants can take note of this question. You can write the answers and post it in the comment section for peer review. So with this, we have come to the end of news analysis and previous year question discussion. With this, let us wind up our discussion. If you like the video, if you understand the way I'm teaching, please give like, comment, share and subscribe to ForumIAS channels in various social media platforms. Thank you for listening.